You're listening to Confessions of a Counselor podcast. Here we will talk all things mental wellness.
Hi everyone, it's Janice here and welcome back to Confessions of a Counselor. So last week we were talking about the central nervous system and reminding ourselves that we are not being chased by a tiger. So today I wanted to jump in and talk a little bit more about what's happening in our body. So I talked about how our bodies are designed still as though we are living in the caveman times. And so today I wanted to talk about what is actually happening, what is the function that's happening within our bodies. And so that we can have a further understanding and start to process how do I manage when I am being knocked out of my window and my body's responding as though I'm being chased by a tiger. Okay, so let's jump in. I want you to make a fist with your left hand so that your thumb is on the outside of your knuckles. And then I want you to take your right hand, open palm, and place it over top of that fist that you've made with your left hand so that your fingers are pointing down towards your wrist. Okay, so this is the image that I give my clients. What happens when we get knocked out of our window is what we call a lid flip. So you hear this, oh, you flipped your lid. That's literally happening inside of your brain. So I want you to lift your fingers. So now your hands aren't attached, right? Your left hand is not attached to your right hand. Your lid has flipped. So the fist that you made is a representation of your hindbrain. This is your animal brain. So this is your ability to breathe and regulate your body and do all of those things that we don't necessarily even really think about, just our animal autonomic functions. The open fist hand that you placed over top, this is your frontal cortex. So this is the front of your brain, the part of your brain that's right where your forehead is. This part of your brain gives you the ability to communicate, the ability to think, logic, reason, metacognition, so your ability to think about your thinking. All of these things happen in your frontal cortex. This is an oversimplified version of it for any of my neuroscience people out here. But this just gives you the basics of understanding what's happening in your brain. There's lots of other functions that are happening in your brain. This is the basics. When you get knocked out of your window, so remember our window of tolerance from last season, where when we get knocked out, our feelings feel too big and hard to cope. What happens is our lid flips. And then the thing that I often hear is, I feel like I just can't grasp something, or my skills are just out of reach. I hear this a lot. Because quite frankly, they are, right? So we don't have access to the front of our brain where those things are stored, where we have the ability to understand and comprehend and come up with a skill. So when we are knocked out of our window and we're trying to access skills from therapy, or we're trying to solve a problem or figure something out, or our partner is in problem-solving mode when we're just crying about the awful day that we had at work, and we kind of want to punch them in the face because that's not where we're at. This is what's happening. Your lid has flipped. You don't have access to your frontal cortex. And so we need to remember this when we're thinking about how are we coping and managing with our feelings, and how do we start to put our lid back on so that we can start to cope, so that we can start to use our skills. So in this season, I'm going to go through several of the different techniques that you can use in order to do that. So I look forward to chatting with you about all of these different ways. I
hope you enjoyed today's episode. Confessions of a Counselor podcast is available anywhere you like to listen to your podcast, both on Apple and Android. New episodes will be released every Friday. If you enjoyed this podcast, please feel free to join the conversation. Leave a review or subscribe to the podcast hosted on the Anchor app. All these details can be found at janicelyons.com. Until next time, take care.